Hey folks, welcome back to Stoic Bux. Have you ever thought what really goes through their mind when you vanish off the radar? I'm not talking about just pulling back a little. I'm talking about disappearing, completely removing yourself from their world, like you never existed. Because here's the brutal truth. They've grown too. Used to you being there. They think they can treat you however they want, and you'll always stay. You've given them the comfort of always being available, of always being an option. But what happens when you decide enough is enough? Let's face it, you've been holding on to them like they were oxygen. But have they ever really treated you like they needed you to breathe? No, and that's because they got too comfortable. They started taking you for granted. But here's where everything changes when you vanish, when you stop showing up, when your calls stop coming through, and when your presence becomes just a memory in their rearview mirror. That's when they'll feel it. That's when they'll realize what they've lost. They never saw it coming. 1 minute, they had all the control, and the next, it's ripped from their hands, and they're left with nothing but their own doubts and insecurities. Your sudden absence forces them into a world where your energy, your presence, your attention are no longer theirs to claim, and trust me, they feel it. It hits harder than any argument, any conversation, any plea for them to see your worth. Because when you disappear, they don't just miss you, they crave you. That's the power of silence. That's the impact of stepping away when they least expect it. You become the mystery. They can't solve the void they can't fill. And in that space of uncertainty, you're not the one losing sleep. They are. You see, your constant availability has made you predictable in their eyes. They put you in a box thinking they know exactly how to handle you, how to string you along. But here's the gut punch. You're done being predictable. You're done playing by their rules. When you walk away, when you vanish, without warning, they're left with one terrifying question. What if I lost them for good? It's like taking the floor out from under them. Their confidence gone, their ego shattered. They're left second-guessing every move they made, every word they spoke, every time they pushed you aside, thinking you'd always be there to pick up the pieces. Now all they have is, as our wise friend once remarked, sometimes you don't appreciate your possessions until they've vanished. This quote resonates deeply because it speaks to the very core of human nature. Our tendency to overlook the things we think will always be there when you disappear from their lives. People miss your presence and the realization that they took you for granted. The silence you leave behind forces them to face a harsh truth. They never valued you until they no longer had access to you. The absence of you becomes a loud wake-up call, echoing through every corner of their mind, reminding them that they've lost something they didn't even realize they needed. But here's the thing. This isn't about seeking retribution or manipulating others. It's about reclaiming your authority and demonstrating to them that you are someone they cannot afford to lose. Your disappearance not only alters the course of events, but also shakes their souls. They experience it in unexpected ways, as they didn't fully grasp your worth until you departed from their lives. Keep in mind that people often fail to recognize the value of their possessions until they have lost them. Just because it's human nature doesn't mean you have to wait for them. You shouldn't wait for them to discover your worth, but sometimes that's the only way to make them understand what they've taken for granted. Imagine this. You've been trying to attract someone new, or maybe the spark in your relationship is flickering out. You've given them your time, your energy, and your attention, but it's like talking to a wall. It hurts, doesn't it? But here's the reality check. You're doing all the work. They've grown comfortable with the idea that you'll always be there, and that you'll keep giving without expecting anything in return, and that's where you flip the script. Imagine withdrawing and seizing your unending attention. One day, they awaken to find you no longer there. That's when they realize you've put in the work, and now the absence of your energy surpasses anything they've ever experienced. They become unsure of themselves and desperately try to understand what happened, missing you for the first time. You have the power now, so here's my challenge to you. Step away and let them feel the cold reality of life without you. When they start trying to pull you back into their orbit, you'll know for sure that you have the power now. Leave the phrase, "I accept the challenge," in the comments if you're ready to take charge of your story. Stop chasing and let them know what they lost when you disappeared. Now, let's examine the 9 emotions they may experience when you abruptly vanish. Trust me, this is something they didn't see coming, and it will shake them in ways they didn't expect. When you withdraw and vanish from their lives, it's not merely a minor disruption. It's a profound transformation. If you give them space, you're actually making them feel an emptiness they didn't think they'd feel. You become the silence in their head, the missing piece they can't ignore. Trust me, they'll feel it in every part of their mind. And that's when the real game changes. That's when they start to feel a pull toward you, the pull they didn't expect. The absence they once took for granted now haunts them, drawing them back to the space you once occupied. They begin to question your whereabouts, your actions, and the reason they failed to recognize your value until your departure. The power shift is undeniable. You've become the mystery. The energy they're missing is you, and here's the catch. The farther away you stay, the stronger the pull will be. No one will be chasing you anymore. It will be them. Stay with me and hit There is a like button below this video that will help it reach more people like you who need to take back their power. Trust me, you're not the only one who needs this message. Many others, trapped in the same cycle, are eagerly awaiting the awakening. Let's break it together. When someone rejects you, what is the initial emotion they experience? This type of rejection inflicts deep pain and lingers in their minds long after they come to terms with your absence. Let's begin with the harsh reality. They never anticipated your departure. They were too used to you being there waiting for a change that never came. However, their world has now shattered, and the unexpected rejection feels like a devastating blow. When you disappear, they feel rejected in a way that chips away at their ego, whether it's by someone new you were trying to attract or someone from an old relationship that's grown stale. The sting hits just as hard. They may initially appear unaffected, yet their inner pain stems from the sense of abandonment and powerlessness, cuts deeper than they'll ever admit. Imagine you've been trying to attract a new person. You've shown interest, put in the work, and made it clear you were available. However, they kept you at a distance. Perhaps they entertained your attention, but they never fully reciprocated. They knew you were always putting yourself out there, so they liked thinking you'd be waiting for their next move. But now everything changes. When you stop reaching out and disappear, your energy suddenly drops, and the weight of your loss becomes apparent. It's a rejection. They weren't ready for it, and now they're wondering what went wrong. Were they too distant? Did they miss their chance? Upon realizing their absence, they begin to question their own abilities in a manner they never experienced under your guidance. Worse, you can't help, reassure, or even explain. It hurts because you left them to deal with their own fears and insecurities. Let's now shift our focus to an old relationship that is barely surviving. Maybe you've been trying to reignite a spark that's long since faded, or maybe you've been holding on because you didn't want to be the one to walk away, but deep down you know it's over. They've become distant and cold, and they treat your presence like an obligation. So what happens when you finally decide to disappear? In the beginning, they may feel relieved because you've given them space, but as time passes, they realize they've lost you and feel rejected. The sting sets in when they realize you're no longer there. While they may not have appreciated your presence, the absence of you forces them to confront their loss. Steve Maraboli's quote, The most painful thing is losing yourself in the process of loving someone too much and forgetting that you are special too. Perfectly captures this feeling. Whether it's a new person or someone from the past, they forgot how special you are, and now that you're gone, the rejection hurts because they lost sight of your value. But here's the harsh truth. This moment of rejection isn't about them. It's about you reclaiming your power. To be honest, you've been hesitant to leave for too long, fearing that they would either forget about you or replace you. That fear has been holding you hostage, keeping you stuck in a cycle where you always give more than you receive. But now that you've pulled away, you realize that fear was just an illusion. What you're doing now isn't running away or giving up. It's letting go of the need to prove your worth to someone who should have seen it all along. The sting of rejection is just what happens when they finally realize you're not theirs to keep. The prize is to keep yourself grounded. Repeat this statement when you feel clear. You don't need approval from someone who didn't see your worth when you were right in front of them. You're not disappearing to manipulate or play games. You're stepping back because you know you deserve more. Now let's take this to the next level. If you're prepared to assert your authority, if you've had enough of being a mere option, I urge you to write these words. I've had enough of begging. Own them and let the world know you're not here to seek approval from anyone. They deserve better, and it's time for them to experience what life is like without you. Stay tight, because the journey isn't over yet. I promise you that every step of this process will completely change things. After rejection, the next emotion they'll experience is the emptiness of missing something, you. Initially, they might attempt to dismiss the rejection by convincing themselves that they can manage without you. Even though they may pretend to be unaffected, they can't deny the void your absence has left behind. They took you for granted because you were always there, giving them energy, time and care, but now there's a huge hole where you used to be, and it's slowly eating them up. People don't just miss having someone to talk to or spend time with. They miss the comfort, security and stability you brought to their world. For example, if you've been trying to meet someone new, you've been making time for them and showing that you're interested. If the other person kept you at a distance because they always thought you'd be there, they didn't see your value in their life. But now that you're gone, they're left feeling the emptiness of not having you around during every moment of silence, and every day that passes without a text or call from you feels heavier and more profound than they expected. They start noticing the little things. How much better their day was when they heard from you. How much more exciting their life seemed when you were part of it. Now in your absence, all those small details add up, and the void becomes undeniable. In an old relationship, the feeling is even more intense. You've been there through the highs and lows, always present, always the one holding the relationship together. Maybe they grew complacent, thinking that no matter what, you'd always stick around. But now that you've disappeared, they realize how much of their life was built around you. The things they once found comforting, the text, good night, the plans for the weekend, the shared laughter, are now painful reminders of what they've lost. This emptiness hits them in unexpected ways. They'll notice it when something reminds them of you, like a song, a place, or a moment that you used to share. They'll feel it in the silence where your voice used to be. They'll always remember how much you added to their lives, and they can't get away from the feeling that something important is missing. The quote, "You don't know what you've got until it's gone," perfectly describes how they feel right now. No matter how hard they try, nothing beats having you back. The mind doesn't handle loss well. When we lose something or someone we care about, we obsess over it, trying to find ways to deal with the quick change. That's precisely what they're doing right now. They're trying to distract themselves. It might help to hang out with friends, try new things, or even look for someone else, but it won't work. The emptiness is too real, too persistent, no matter what they do. They can't shake the feeling that someone important is missing. You see, the brain craves what it doesn't have. The more they try to move on, the more they'll find themselves drawn back to the thought of you. They'll start comparing everyone they meet to you. No one will quite match the connection they had with you, and that's when the realization hits. You weren't just someone who filled their time. You were someone who mattered, someone who made a difference in their life. And now that you're gone, nothing seems to fit, right? What are you doing during this time? You're not sitting around waiting for them to realize what they've lost. You've already moved on, focusing on yourself, reclaiming your power. You're not giving them any more of your energy, and that's why they feel the loss so deeply. You're no longer their safety net, the person they can rely on whenever they need attention or validation. They're on their own now, and it's starting to sink in. At this point, you may feel tempted to reach out to check on them, to see if they've realized what they've lost. But here's the thing. Don't let them sit with that emptiness. Let them feel the full weight of missing you. This is their wake-up call, and if you step in too soon, they'll never fully appreciate the depth of your value. To keep yourself grounded during this time, say to yourself over and over, I am whole without them. You don't need their approval or attention to feel complete, and their emptiness is not yours to carry. As they sit with the emptiness of missing you, don't be surprised when they start reaching out to reconnect. You're in charge now, so if they return, it'll be on your terms. They will come back because missing you is a void they won't be able to fill with anyone else. Here is the second affirmation to keep you grounded. I am whole without them. Write it down for positive measure in the comments. You declare that you don't need their approval to feel complete. Their absence emphasizes your strength. Following the pain of rejection and the emptiness of missing you is an overwhelming curiosity. Sometimes they act like they don't care that you've disappeared, but in silence, curiosity eats away at them. They start to wonder what you're doing, who you're spending your time with, and why you're no longer reaching out. Their mind starts to race with endless questions. Why did you pull away? Did you find someone else? Are you better off without them? As the days pass, they wonder where you are, what you're doing, and how you disappeared so quickly. Their interest grows with each passing day and turns into an obsession. When they encounter someone new, their curiosity stems from a state of confusion. You used to pursue them and give them your full attention, but now they are akin to ghosts, as they are unable to comprehend the reason for your cessation of communication with them, which causes them to become agitated. They feel like they've lost control, and the mystery of your absence becomes a puzzle they're desperate to solve. Every time they check their phone and see no messages from you hurts more, making them want to know your life. In an old relationship, the situation is even worse. They used to know everything about you, your habits, your routines, and your life. They find themselves in the dark, unable to cope. They wonder who's filling the void you left. Is it someone else making you smile? Or did you finally decide to move on to a better, brighter chapter without them? This intense interest doesn't just happen when they're not doing anything. It follows them around all day. When they wake up and don't see a message from you, their mind starts to spiral. When they browse through social media without finding anything from you, it intensifies their frustration. They'll start checking in on you indirectly, maybe through mutual friends or subtle social media stalking, but no matter how much they dig, they won't find what they're looking for because you're not giving them any clues. During this time, you're living your life, focusing on yourself, and enjoying the space you've made for yourself. Their needs or expectations tie them down, driving them crazy. The more mysterious you are, the more interested they become in you. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded. I am the mystery they can't solve. Write it in the comments to make it official. They can no longer read you at their leisure. They won't be able to stop trying to figure you out now that you've become the impossible puzzle number 4. The overwhelming curiosity of where you've gone and what you're doing compels them to engage in deep self-reflection. When you disappear from their life, it forces them to look inward, and that's when they start questioning themselves in ways they never did before. At first, they may have shrugged off your absence. As time goes on, though, and they sit with the emptiness, their mind turns inward. Did I push them away? Was I too far away? These questions start to haunt them, creating a whirlwind of doubt and regret. They replay interactions, analyzing times when they could have acted differently, times when they should have paid you more attention or treated you with more respect for someone new. This realization shocks them. They might not have known how much they missed you or how little they appreciated your efforts to connect. Now that you've departed, they find themselves questioning whether they squandered their opportunity, exhibited excessive coldness, or overlooked someone who could have been truly exceptional. This uncomfortable self-reflection is necessary because once they realize they were the reason you left, they'll realize your distance was a response to their laziness, which hurts extra in an old relationship. The self-reflection. At a deeper level, they begin to contemplate why they allowed the relationship to deteriorate. People start to realize how much they took for granted you were there, trying to reignite the spark. Every memory reminds them of the times they didn't show up. Why didn't they appreciate you when they had the chance? Why didn't they give more? This process of deep self-reflection isn't about pity. It's about facing the truth of their own behavior. They cannot blame you for leaving, as it is evident that their actions or inactions were the driving force behind your departure. And it is at this point that they begin to recognize the flaws in their own character. In addition to losing you, it's about facing their new self and how they failed you. What you're doing during this time is staying strong, continuing to focus on yourself and refusing to fall back into old patterns. It's a journey of personal growth and understanding. You've already taken back your power and stepped back. Now they must face the consequences of their actions and decide if they're ready to change to earn your presence again. Here's an affirmation to help you stay grounded at this stage. I reflect, but I don't regret it. Number 5. The urge to pursue you. As deep self-reflection begins, a strong and undeniable urge to pursue you emerges. This is where the tables really turn. The person who once felt so in control now feels the pull to chase after what they lost. And it's not just a fleeting thought. It becomes a growing need, a burning desire to regain the connection they took for granted at first. Initially, they might have convinced themselves that they didn't require your presence in their lives, but now they've experienced rejection, missed your energy, grappled with curiosity, and confronted their own shortcomings. The emptiness they feel and the realization of what they've lost are overwhelming. Sparks a drive they can't ignore the urge to reach out to fix things, to close the distance between you and them becomes overwhelming when you're trying to attract someone new. This is the moment they realize they might have lost something special. They think back to how you were always there, showing interest, putting in effort, being consistent. Now that's gone, and they can't help but feel the need to pull you back into their orbit. They might start by subtly liking your posts, sending a random message to test the waters, or even asking mutual friends about you. Each small step is a way of reeling you back in trying to regain the connection they didn't value before in an old relationship. This urge is even more intense. They can't stop thinking about the times you tried to make things work, the dinners, the conversations, the efforts you made to keep the relationship alive now. In your absence, they see how much you did for them, and the realization hits hard. They want that back. They want you back. The need to pursue you becomes their primary focus, and they'll go out of their way to try to win you over again. The irony, you've pulled away, and now they're the one doing the chasing. The roles have reversed, and they're left with the uncomfortable realization that they no longer have control. What once felt like certainty, knowing you were always there, always available, has dissolved into fear and doubt. The more they feel the loss of you, the stronger their urge becomes to reach out to fix what's broken and to make things right. But here's where you hold your power. You've already made the decision to step back, and now you get to decide whether their pursuit is worth your time. This isn't about playing games. It's about standing in your own value and knowing that you no longer need to chase anyone if they come back. It's on your terms, not theirs. As they scramble to reconnect, remind yourself of this. You are the prize, not the option they are chasing, because they finally see what you've always known you're worth pursuing. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded at this point. I write it in the comments once and for all, and let it be known you've shifted the dynamic, and now they feel the urge to pursue you. But remember, you're in control now, and whether they come back or not is entirely up to you. Number 6. The battle between relief and regret. As they navigate the growing urge to pursue you, they experience a conflicting inner battle, a tug-of-war between two powerful emotions, relief and regret. Relief and regret. When you left their life, they may have felt temporarily relieved, thinking, finally some space. Even if they thought your absence was what they needed to move on and find someone else or regain their independence, it doesn't last long. Small thoughts like, maybe I should have tried harder, or maybe I was too far away, start to make them feel regret. Over time, these thoughts build up, and soon regret overpowers any comfort they once felt. They start to see how wrong they were. Over time, they come to understand that they overlooked a valuable opportunity for someone else. They feel like they missed out on a rare opportunity. Initially, they might have relished their solitude and felt comforted by the absence of your attention, but now they ponder the potential outcomes if they had given you a genuine chance. A former partner regrets not investing in you sooner. Initially, your departure may have felt like a relief, but as time passes, their regret intensifies. As time goes on, memories flood back, making them realize how much they took for granted. At first, they felt relieved, but that quickly turned into sadness at losing someone who really cared about them. Not only is it an emotional struggle between relief and regret, but it also serves as a reminder that what they initially perceived as freedom turned out to be the absence of something meaningful, leaving them with the heavy burden of realizing they failed to appreciate you when they had the opportunity. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded. I am more than enough. Leave a comment to remind yourself that you're worth more than their temporary relief. Let their regret fuel your strength, knowing that you are no longer an option, but a treasure they let slip away. The desire to play the game. As regret sets in, they feel compelled to test the waters and see if they can manipulate the situation to win you back. Instead of facing their feelings head-on, they use tricks to try to get you back without admitting their mistakes. But the problem is that they've already lost the upper hand. They'll try to act indifferent, maybe even distant, thinking that by copying your behavior, they can get your attention again. It's a classic move to act like they don't care in the hopes that you'll come running back. They might start posting on social media about how full and exciting their life seems. Without your knowledge, they may be flirting with others to make you jealous. They believe that their actions will irritate you, but they ultimately fail. You're not playing anymore. You've taken a step back, regained your power, and are no longer the one chasing them. Their desire to play the game only highlights their insecurity, as you are already reacting to their attempts to control you. Beyond it, you see the game for what it is: a desperate attempt to regain control over a situation they can no longer handle for someone new. This game might feel like a test. They'll pretend they're unaffected by your absence, hoping you'll be the one to break the silence. But as they try to play it cool, the cracks in their confidence begin to show. They want you to reach out first. However, every day that passes without a word from you deepens their frustration in an old relationship. Behavior is giving you mixed signals to see if you'll bite, but this time you're not falling for it. Their desire to play games is a desperate attempt to reclaim the control they once possessed, but you've outgrown their need for validation. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded: I no longer play games. Go ahead and write it in the comments, solidifying your stance. Let them play all they want. You've already won by stepping out of game number 8, the crushing weight of silence. After all their games, after the push and pull, they find themselves confronted with an unexpected burden: the crushing weight of silence. Silence can be louder than words, and your absence, it's deafening. They thought they could handle it. At first, thought they could wait you out. But now the quiet is starting to break them down. There's no more back and forth, no more excuses, no more distractions, just silence, and it's suffocating. They begin to feel the heavy void. Your presence once filled every moment without a text, a call, or even a casual encounter becomes a reminder of what they've lost. This silence forces them to sit with their own thoughts, and the lack of communication becomes an unspoken testament to the distance between you. They're not just missing the sound of your voice. They're haunted by the absence of the connection you shared, and every day that goes by without a word from you feels heavier than the last for someone new. This silence is unbearable. They're used to you being the one who keeps things moving forward, the one who makes the effort. But now that you've pulled back completely, they're left with nothing but their own thoughts. The silence becomes a mirror, reflecting their own indecision and lack of effort, and they can't escape it in an old relationship. The weight of silence is even more profound. They're accustomed to the familiar rhythms of your relationship. The late night conversations about the plans you once made, the arguments that once occupied the space, have now ceased. The silence compels them to confront the harsh reality of life without you, a reality they can't easily shake off. They find themselves wallowing in their own regret, hearing the echo of every unspoken word and every missed opportunity. Moment they thought you weren't there, the crushing weight of silence reminds them that you're not there to fill the void, and the longer it lasts, the worse it gets for them. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded: my silence speaks volumes. Write it in the comments if you want to. Let the quiet be your strength. As they grapple with the burden, you will maintain your composure, understanding that your silence resonates more powerfully than any words you could have uttered. The fear that resurfaces after silence crushes them, signals the necessity for action. They're afraid that you've moved on and that they'll never see you again. This fear is what makes them come all the way back. Now it's not about pride or ego, it's about survival. The idea of living without you is unbearable to them, and the realization that they might have lost their opportunity weighs heavily on them. They can't move because they're afraid of losing you forever. They think about you all the time, and they start to wonder if you've found happiness and satisfaction somewhere else. This fear gobbles at them, creating anxiety and regret so deep that it forces them to act. The idea of you being gone forever shakes them to their core, and suddenly nothing else matters. But getting you back in the case of someone new, this fear grows out of their realization that they underestimated you. They thought they could take their time, that you'd always be an option, but now the silence has stretched too long, and the fear that someone else has captured your attention makes them desperate. They'll start reaching out, sending messages, and even showing up unexpectedly, trying to win you back, because they can't bear the thought of losing you for someone in an old relationship. The fear is even more profound. They thought they knew you well, thought they could predict your moves, but now faced with the reality of your absence, they panic. They realize that all the times they pushed you away, all the moments they took you for granted have led to this your silence, your independence, and that terrifies them. They'll do whatever it takes to make things right, to pull you back into their life, even if it means swallowing their pride and coming to you on their knees. But here's the most important part: when they come crawling back, it's on your terms. You're no longer the one begging for attention or validation. You've reclaimed your power, and now they're the ones desperate to be in your life. This is where the dynamic shifts completely, and they realize just how valuable you are. Here's an affirmation to keep you grounded: I am worth the chase. Go ahead and write it in the comments. Let their fear be the catalyst for your strength. They're returning because they understand what they've lost, and it's now your responsibility to determine whether they merit another opportunity. If this movie resonates with you, please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who could benefit from it. Don't forget to leave a comment if you're prepared to take a stand and let them know what they've lost. Remember that you are the prize, so stay strong, stay grounded, and always know how much you're worth. They will return, but only if you allow them to. Until next time, stay empowered.